Alrighty, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the KSL.com Game Center podcast. It is Wednesday, February 22nd. It's been about a week since we came at you with the last episode previewing the NBA All-Star Weekend. We got a little bit busy with that. There was a lot going on here in Salt Lake City, but we are back now to talk a little bit about college hoops. Now that we're nearing the end of February, almost heading into March, it's time to start focusing on what's going on in college basketball, especially here in the state of Utah. So to do a little bit of that, we brought on Josh Furlong. How you doing this great snowy, miserable morning, Josh?
It's so fun. I'm done. I'm done. I'm just done. How about that?
For those who are not in Utah, I imagine most of the west or slash northwest mountain region got a lot of snow, so you probably know what we're talking about. Pretty crazy storm came through, and there's just a lot of white stuff out there today. A lot of stuff to get through. So
Let's be done with it.
and to make matters more fun, it got some home games here in Salt Lake. So these teams are going to have to deal with the snow a little bit. I was watching the Utah State Wyoming game a little bit last night, and I mean the storm was rolling into Laramie during the game, and the commentators were saying, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to get out of here because of this snow. So it is kind of that time of the year, kind of a freak, fun little week here with the snow playing a little bit of a factor in this week's sports.
There was a couple years ago, or maybe it was last year. I got up to the Huntsman Center one time, and there was no snow on the ground. It wasn't even snowing. I come out from the basketball game, and there was literally a foot and a half on my car. I'm like, what? This is not ideal. So it's just that time of the year, and it's fun, and I use fun very loosely, but whatever.
Yeah, well,
California teams are coming here, and so they're like, what the heck?
exactly, yes. And speaking of the California teams, we got two coming on Thursday to the Huntsman Center. Cal playing the Utah women's basketball team, and then number 4 ranked UCLA men's basketball team coming in to play the running Utes. But let's start out by talking about the women. Got ranked as high as number 4 last week, but then with a loss to Arizona on the road, dropped to number 8 this week. Only their third loss of the year, if I'm not mistaken. So obviously still a pretty incredible team, pretty incredible record. But when you're that good, the margin of error is a lot smaller. And so going from 2 losses to 3 losses seems like a bigger deal than going from 11 losses to 12 losses, for example, right?
No, for sure. And I think that's exactly where this women's team is 2 years ago, they literally won only 5 games. And so, that margin has drastically changed, like you mentioned, where losing kind of became the standard for a while. Now it's not, right? Like you've lost your 3rd game literally into the last week of the regular season for the women's team. And you've got 2 teams that can essentially help you this week. With Cal, they come in on Thursday, and in Cal, by and large, they're not really a good team. They've only won 3 games or 4 games, excuse me, in conference play. So they're not a team that's necessarily going to give Utah some fits. But the real thing is this is a trap game because they've got Stanford on Saturday, the season finale. Stanford is obviously ranked high. They're ranked 3rd in the nation. They're the top in the conference. Utah's a game behind them. And so this is one of those times where it's like, look, okay, you've got to be able to get Cal to be able to get to Saturday and be able to play Stanford. And then above all that, you've got Alyssa Peely, who is hurt and may not even play this week. So they're trying to be cautious with her. She's not too hampered in the sense that this isn't going to be long term, but there's a real possibility that she doesn't even play this week. And so that kind of changes things. And so that, like you mentioned, that margin for error is razor thin, and it's even more thin now, especially with Peely out. So Utah has the talent to be able to do it. Cal shouldn't be a problem. But then you've got to make sure that your eyes aren't looking forward on Saturday with Stanford.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Peely, on this podcast and in stories you've written, and I think rightfully so. She's obviously a great player. So I'm curious, if she's not able to go, for those who may be less acquainted, who are some of those people that you're looking to step up for Utah this week?
Yeah, if Peely's not able to go, Utah's going to have to go a little bit more small ball. Not that Peely adds necessarily a lot of height. She's not necessarily the tallest player on the court, but she's able to get a lot of rebounds and kind of be that post presence that helps Utah. So in their absence, they're going to have to kind of mix it up a little bit. It takes away from their ability to just get easy shots from 3-point range. But if they can get Peyton McFarland back on the court on a consistent basis, that would help them a ton. She's much taller. She can go toe to toe with a lot of these athletes out there and give them a great post presence. She was doing really well last year, and then suffered an ACL injury against Stanford in the conference championship game. So this is one of those weeks where it's kind of real for her, and being able to kind of get back on the court. I've talked to her a couple weeks ago now, and she's not necessarily worried about getting back on the court or kind of that psychology around injury and like, I'm afraid I'm going to get hurt. It's more just trying to really get acclimated back into the system. So if they can get that, that would be great. You've got Kelsey Reese, who's able to kind of be a good post presence, but she offers some great minutes off the bench, but she hasn't necessarily been the person that needs to be able to be that starting figure. So if Alyssa's not out there, they're going to be fine overall, especially against Cal, excuse me. But once you go against Stanford, where you're literally going up against the block leader in Cameron Brink, that changes it drastically. So it'll be interesting to see what Lynn does, how they kind of mix and match and try to figure that out. But it'll be a good challenge, and I have to imagine she goes on Saturday at the very least, just to at least try it. But they're not going to push it, especially with the conference championship next week.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned kind of the opportunities that this week raises to help this team. Get a somewhat easy win against Cal, and then get a really big resume helper if you're able to come out with an upset over Stanford, right? And so over this these last couple weeks, these upcoming weeks, I'm sure there's going to be some variability in kind of the projections of where this team could land come Selection Sunday, right? With them dropping from number 4 in the nation to number 8. I'm not sure where they're at in kind of like the advanced RPI net type stuff. But I'm kind of curious, is there, I know there was some talk about it, is there still some hope that this Utah team could get a home game in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's pretty much a guarantee at this point that they will host. So that they should be okay. It's the top. I'm trying to remember. Is it the top 8 seeds or 4 seeds? I can't remember.
I thought it was 4.
Okay, it might be 4.
Yeah.
Either way, they're not going to drop that far,
Yeah.
right? So even if you lose to Stanford, you're not going to get dinged a lot, because now you lose to Cal and then Stanford, maybe that changes
Right.
things. And
Right.
then Utah seems to be a lock to be able to host the first 2 rounds of the tournament. So this is a great opportunity for them, right? Like, obviously you want to come in this week, you want to beat Stanford, you want to be able to say, okay, we beat the top dog in the conference and win a regular season championship, as well as maybe potentially do that next week as the full championship. But the reality is they're positioned well, right? Like, regardless of what happens this week or next week with conference championships and everything that way, Utah's going to host in the NCAA tournament, and they're going to have some great opportunities ahead of them. So they're going to be the top dog in their region. They're going to be able to have a lot of opportunities there, and barring some setbacks or whatever, I mean, they should be able to at least get to the Sweet 16, which was their goal going into this season. They made it to the second round last year. Texas just, they were a better team. They showed their length, they showed their ability, and this team really wants to be able to at least get to the Sweet 16. So, hopefully for their sake, they go further, because I think that's where they think that they can be, especially as a potentially a top 2 seed. But Sweet 16 is definitely their goal, and I think that's easily attainable, especially as the the polling and everything has come about.
For sure, for sure. So yeah, I mean, we mentioned Stanford, huge team on Saturday, but yeah, can't miss that potential trap game as well on Thursday against Cal. And another top 5 team coming in on the men's side, number 4 UCLA on Thursday. I'm not sure when the last time we had 2 top 5 teams coming in to the Huntsman Center the same week. Do you know if that's happened recently, at least?
I would have to look, but it's an interesting opportunity to be able to have for both programs to be able to have top teams come in. And I mean, Utah's ranked in the top 10. I think they've been in the top 10 for, this is the women's, for the top 10 weeks or 9 weeks or something like that. So I mean, this is a lot of great basketball up at the Huntsman Center, especially on the women's side. But on the men's side, especially with UCLA coming in, I mean, they're if there is a team in the Pac-12 that is probably, I would say, destined to be the best, it's probably them. But This conference has been so inconsistent this year that you never know. But it's a great team. They have a lot of talent, and this is going to be a real tough game for Utah.
Yeah, certainly. I've had a bit of history, covering slash having teams that I cover go up against this UCLA team, covering BYU for a while. They went up against UCLA a couple years ago when the Bruins made that great run to the Final Four. The Jazz have Johnny Juzang on their G League team, so there's kind of these connections, right? That I've been familiar with this UCLA team for a while. They're very good, obviously, ranked number 4. They've been good for several years, and just kind of a fun team to root for, in my opinion, too. Like just kind of got these guys that have a bit of that underdog mindset, just kind of fun to watch. And so coming into Salt Lake, going up against this Utah team who, in a lot of senses, has exceeded expectations. I think obviously been a bit of a roller coaster. Losing both games last week, not ideal. So I'm kind of curious, where is this Utah team at, and is there any kind of hope at all that they could pull off an upset on Thursday?
Upset chances are significantly low, mostly because Gabe Madsen, who is their best outside threat as a shooter, he's still out, barring a miraculous recovery. And Craig Smith didn't leave that ruled that out, but he's most likely not going to go. And then you've got Raleigh Wooster, who suffered an ankle injury against Arizona State. I don't want to say that the one is worse than the other, but I think with Raleigh going out, he's their floor general. He's the guy that he's not always going to be the flashiest point guard out there, or the guy that you couldn't necessarily upgrade, but he has been phenomenal for Utah this year and being able to help them. There's times that he's struggled, but by and large he's had a really good season. And so you lose those two guys, and I just don't know where Utah gets an offense. I don't know how they run their offense really. You've got guys that can step in, but your next guy that probably is going to step in is Wilkins Exact Jr., who is a freshman. He's got some great handles, but he hasn't seen that experience or gotten the play that really allows him to be able to beat a top 4, a top 5 team in the country. So look, if they do it, great, but I don't see where they can get some offense. Maybe defensively they can help them, but you're going up against one of the best defensive teams in the country. So look, I don't expect this. I expect this to be quite the blowout, quite honestly. I just don't see this going well for Utah. The odds are stacked against them unless something changes. And so, Craig Smith's realistic about this. We talked to him yesterday, and he's not hiding from it. He's not trying to say we're going to go out there and shock the world type thing. He understands that they're in a really tough situation, and he's trying to figure out how he can get his team to kind of work essentially with what they have. So you got to have some good expectations, just knowing that this is what it is. Utah is playing for a top 4 seed to try to get a bye in next week, or in the conference tournament in 2 weeks. Sorry, women's come next week, men's come 2 weeks. And you've got 2 tough games this week that aren't going to make that easy. So that's what they're playing for. If they can get above that line, that's great. But if not, hope that you can get your guys back by the conference tournament and maybe make a run that way.
Yeah, it does kind of feel like that perfect storm of things going wrong for this team, right? And it was never expected to be, a Pac-12 championship winning year for this team, but I think there was kind of some hopes there, once they were kind of sneaking into like, top 2, 3 in the Pac-12, a couple big games there. But yeah, it's tough for, the end of the season to kind of come out this way where there's, injuries are playing a significant role. I did just have the thought though, for those who are interested in going to the Huntsman Center tomorrow, it's probably a good thing that the women's game is first and then the men's, because you wouldn't have to sit through an entire potential blowout against UCLA. Instead, you can watch a great Utah women's team, and then if the men do show some fight, if they show a little bit of a run in the first half, you can maybe stick around. You get a little taste of that UCLA game. But certainly, kind of a fun little doubleheader there for those interested in going up to the Hill.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and they've priced their tickets in a way that allows you to go to both games. I believe if you purchase a ticket to the women's game, you get a GA ticket to the men's game, which I think there's a specific section on in the upper bowl. They won't have their curtains, so you can be curtainless for these games. I know that's become a big whatever hubbub, whatever. It's stupid, but you know, you've got an opportunity to be able to watch two games each of these days, and it's fun. So as much as the men's program right now is down based on where they were, look, they were never back to where a lot of people want them to be.
Mhm.
But they have definitely made a lot of progress. They have done a lot of good things. You know, they've got 10 wins in conference, which is much better than what they were last year. So this is a team that's growing. It's obviously a bad timing that this is where those injuries are coming. But if you can hold on and kind of salvage it a little bit and finish the season with some respectability, go into in a couple weeks and go into that conference tournament and at least make a run, right? If you can get to the semifinals of the Pac-12 conference tournament, I think that's a good run for this team. You know, build your resume up for an NIT bid, see what you can do that way, and any postseason play at this point is better than where they've been at. So, you know, you have to be happy about that.
For sure, for sure. Yeah, you know, if you're able to brave this snow, get up there to the hill, to the Huntsman Center, it could be a lot of fun. I was able to spend quite a bit of time actually in the Huntsman Center this past weekend with half, if not more, of the NBA All-Star Weekend events going on at the Huntsman Center. Uh, got a chance to see all the jerseys hanging up there in the rafters, including the sweater for Rick Majerus standing there in the rafters as well. So certainly a lot of history with Utah basketball. It might not be the same, but hey, it's always a fun time there in the Huntsman. So, yeah, great matchups coming up. Thanks for coming on, Josh. Appreciate you, and we'll see what the Utes can do this weekend.
Appreciate it, man.
We'll catch you guys next time.